Kids born to teen moms. How different is your life compared to other kids? I was born to a teen mom. And a single one at that. I definitely had a lot more freedom and less supervision as a child since both of her parents, my grandparents obviously, passed away soon after I was born. So there weren't many options for babysitters. Since she worked 2 jobs, I would often be on my own after school until about 8 or 9 at night. Sometimes later. She definitely struggled to hold down jobs due to not having an education, and the overall grind would eventually get to her. At one point she was walking 11 miles a day to and from work because we didn't have a vehicle. Eventually, we lost our home and we remained in and out of shelters until I was about 12. I learned a lot about the world in those days. At the time I hated it and was jealous of other kids having normal lives. Now that I'm older, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It gave me every bit of motivation I have. It gave me better social skills, gotta learn to make friends quick when you move frequently. And most importantly, it taught me to be humble and never view less fortunate people as beneath me. She was diagnosed with cancer when I was 13 and died when I was 15, which sucks. Cause emo, I grew up to be a good person and good father. Would love to have her around to see it. I've noticed that I didn't have the same opportunities as other kids because being a teen mom can lead you down a road of struggle and poverty if you don't have help from family. I've always wanted to play sports. But she could never afford the equipment needed at school to be a part of it. Mentally, I've had to mature faster at a young age because she was still a kid herself. It's unnerving to think teachers would tell me I seemed older than my age at 10 years old. When friends would come over for the first time growing up, I'd get a lot of, "I didn't know you had an older sister." "I don't. That's my mother." Also, since my mom and I are only 16 years apart, we ended up liking a lot of the same music, which made going to concerts a lot easier. Because we'd often wanna go to the same shows. So, I've definitely seen a lot more bands than friends. I was 20 when I had my daughter and people often asked if we were sisters. My daughter was always horrified when people assumed we were sisters. When she started 3rd grade, we had just moved, so she was in a new school. She came home a couple days into the school year declaring that I had to start dressing like an old person because then maybe people wouldn't assume we were sisters. We laugh about it a lot now. Many years later. Funnily enough, I kind of have the opposite story. My oldest sister and youngest brother are 18 years apart. When she took walks with the youngest in the park when he was around 1. A lot of people assumed she was the mother. I was born in 1964 when my mother was 16. Grandparents adopted me so I'd have a name. Father's family paid for the hospital bills, and that was it because they didn't want to ruin his chances to go to VMI. Mother had 3 other kids from at least 2 other men and tried to treat me like a little sister, although a girl in 3rd grade decided it was her duty to tell me I didn't really have a daddy. 3-bedroom country farm with 4 kids. Grandparents and mother with her pedo husband was a constant fight, complete with fists and screaming almost daily. At least we could go outside. Lost a brother to a gunshot when stepfather cheated on mother and left gun down while he was leaving. Other brother accidentally shot him. Mother continued to treat me like a sister until she decided she wanted to be a mother. My grandmother was the one who raised me and the one I consider my true mother. When she died, she left me the land with her house on it, and my mother tricked me into signing it over to her. I was very naive. She accused my straight-edge goth Y kids, in their 30s now, of being on drugs because they wore black, and has held a remark I made about moving away when I was 16 against me to this day. My father sent me $50 when I graduated and $100 when I got married the first time. And I had no idea he was even my father until I was 23. I would have liked to have had a different childhood. One of my friends has a teen mom. She doesn't talk about it too much, but she says that it's nice how all family members' great-grandparents are still alive. That threw me off so much. My parents had me at 40 and their parents had them around 30, so by the time I was born I already was one grandparent down, and it only took a few years for the next to go. Now at the age of 22 I have none. Meanwhile my BF, whose family all have had children, around 18, and his great-great-grandparents are still alive, and he goes on trips with his grandparents. My dad was almost 40 when I was born and my mom was 36. I always had older parents and grew up with only one grandparent. I was adopted, though not uncommon for adoptees to have older parents. I've recently started looking for my biological family and found that my biological grandparents are only a few years older than my parents. It makes perfect sense, but it's still a bit of a mindfuck. I went to school with a girl who had her first child at 14. She had 2 more before graduation. At the age of 28 she became a grandmother. The child-born's great-great-great-grandmother was alive and only 82. If she lives until 96, she can meet her great-great-great-great-grandkid. I feel like that's approaching some human record. My mother resented me. Still does actually. But it's lessened over the years. It was apparently my fault she missed her teen years. So she dropped me off at a relative's in another state when I was a toddler and hitchhiked around the country for a year. As I grew up I was screamed at and beaten for looking like my biological father. She didn't trust me a bit because of it. I had to get permission to step outside to get the mail. Couldn't bathe myself until I was a teenager. Couldn't do homework with others. I don't think it has ever occurred to her I'm not guilty of anything. But in her eyes, being my father's daughter is enough. Am I a child of rape? It's possible. Relatives on both sides said my parents were both pretty horrendous to one another. Drugs and alcohol were involved. I am an adult, with 2 kids of my own, 18 and 19. They are amazing, empathetic young people and I am so proud. I am low contact with my mother. It is superficial at best. After spending my youth not being allowed to have emotions, I have no desire to tell her anything that actually means something to me. Being forced to hide any and all feelings is my biggest remaining issue. I still struggle to believe anyone would care how I feel. I rarely show emotions, pain, etc. But I do try to move beyond it. Every day. I know I missed out on a regular childhood. I became a teacher and greatly enjoyed being on that side of things. I loved not only educating but I also tried to be a mentor and role model to my students aged 12 to 14. My parents got married when they found out my mom was pregnant at 16, she had me her senior year at 17. And both still managed to work their way through college with me in tow. It was honestly pretty annoying. They liked to party a lot with their friends. Which got annoying quick, having a bunch of 30-somethings getting drunk and listening to loud music when I had to be up early. My mom enjoyed the attention of being mistaken for my sister. But it felt gross because she was the hot mom to all my guy friends growing up and I never heard the end of it. My dad wasn't really interested in doing dad things until they had my sister in their mid-20s. Found out a year ago thanks to 23andMe that my dad's not my biological father. Apparently my mom slept around a lot in high school. Found my bio dad, which uncovered a huge conspiracy of lies and batshit insanity that honestly deserves its own post. Teenagers are fucking stupid. Parents still trying to grow up and learn life lessons 10 years later because they never really had the chance to while raising you. It's kinda cool though, cause then if you're aware enough you also pick up on it. My parents weren't teenagers when they had me and my sister, but they were not ready to be parents. It's wild now that I'm a grown-ass adult and my dad now has a 5-yo. Now that he's ready and in a great relationship. He's doing a fantastic job. Sometimes I'm sad that my little brother is gonna have a relationship that I'll never get. But conversely I'll get to be someone for him that I never had, so it'll all work out. This happened with my dad too. He was in his 20s for me and my first brother and wasn't ready. But then my youngest brother came 14 years later and I always felt like my dad made up for how he was with us by having a fantastic relationship with the youngest. I don't resent him for it. I get it. My mom and I are really close. She had me at 14. Growing up, I noticed a lot of my friends didn't get along with their moms. I always thought she was really relatable. We go eat, go shopping, get coffee, gossip, just hang out. She worked a lot, sometimes multiple jobs at once. So I felt like I did less extracurricular than my friends. But I was pretty happy growing up. She is always concerned with money. I'm starting to notice that she's not very good at saving money. Or planning retirement and whatnot. I once asked a family friend, now that us kids are grown, how are my parents still living paycheck to paycheck? She explained that, in her opinion, my mom basically skipped learning how to take care of herself as an adult. Instead of learning how to effectively adult, She focused on taking care of her kids. I will forever be grateful for my mom and the hard work and sacrifices she endured to raise me and my siblings. My mom was 18. So my aunt and uncle are only 10 years older than me. My uncle is 6 years, so I got to do all kinda of rad stuff with my aunt and uncle like skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding. They were and are more like a brother and sister. Real dad is a boss. My mom fell in love at 20 with a 40-year-old. They are still together 38 years later. Raised me like his own. He had 5 other kids. So I had all kinds of brothers and sisters and tbh a better life than if my real dad stuck around. That first part is so nice. I love all of my nephews and nieces, but those born when I was a teen are my favorites because we spent so much time together doing fun stuff. Sorry your bio dad sucks. But I'm glad that all worked out for you. My mother resented me and the freedom I had as a teen and young adult. I got to do and experience so many things she didn't get to by choice. On her side, I come from a long line of teen moms, but I didn't make that mistake. I was 27 when my daughter was born. And my daughter is almost 22 and no kids yet, so the cycle is broken on our branch at least. Jesus Christ dude, you hit the nail on the head with this one. My mother never wanted me to succeed out of pure jealousy. And would sometimes go to great extents to stop me from succeeding at something.